Hello, everybody. My name is Avery, and I just got back from the Garfield movie. And I have some thoughts on it. When I found out there was going to be a new Garfield movie, I was ecstatic. I was over the moon. I love Garfield. I grew up watching him. He was a big part of my childhood and still is a big part of me today. I wouldn't be who I am without Garfield, and I love him very much. Which was why I was so happy to find out about this movie, because we hadn't had one since the sequel to the Bill Murray live-action Garfield.
At last the roof goes on, and nothing can go wrong. Oh no, it all went wrong!
On November 2021, there was an announcement that Chris Pratt would be voicing Garfield, and I had some complicated thoughts about this. He is the voice of Emmett from the Lego Movie, and he voices Mario in the new animated Illumination Mario movie. And when he was announced to be the voice of Mario, there was quite a lot of feedback based on the reaction of people and big-time Mario fans. He is not a voice actor. He is not trained in that profession whatsoever. The only reason he ever got casted as some of the iconic character voice roles is because he has a recognizable name and people recognize his voice from other movies he has done. Which wasn't the best idea on the director's part for both the Mario movie and the Garfield movie. I've heard from friends that he did an okay job in the Mario movie. But I didn't see the movie, so I can't speak on that in my opinion. But I can talk about how he did in the Garfield movie. So I wanted to do this like an organized video. So I feel like we should start off with the pros and cons. So I have a list here about the pros and cons and the things I liked and didn't like about the movie. Let's start off with the pros. One of the pros is the amazing animation. A lot of the time, 2D animation can be difficult to adapt into 3D CGI. And I think they did a great job of stylizing the style from the original comics and making it look like good and not very nice to look at. It is a very good animation and I love the character designs. Number 2 for the pros is that it has great music, good soundtrack, good original score, and some pretty good bops from other musicians such as Snoop Dogg and other people I will probably list later when I look them up. So yeah, the music is very good. Third pro, Baby Garfield. When I first saw the Garfield trailer, it came out on a Monday, which I will admit was very clever of them. But when I first watched the trailer, I believe it opened up with Garfield as a little kitten meeting John, and my heart melted. I was so in love with the design of Baby Garfield. He was so cute. I just wanted to hug him, and I wanted all the plushies of him because I love Garfield plushies. But then there was a big jump scare from Chris Pratt, and just hearing his voice coming out of Garfield was just extremely unsettling and off.
And that's how I adopted John.
I don't know. But yeah, I guess that, Baby Garfield was one of the big points I did like about the movie. Number 4 for pros is John. John usually annoyed me in some of the other adaptations, but this John was fairly likable. I related to him, especially the part where he, dedicates his whole life to his pets because he loves them and treats them as his, kids. And he freaks out the exact same way I would freak out if I found out my pets were missing. I love him. He's funny, and it's just, whoever voiced him did a really good job. But yeah, those are the pros. I know, 4 of them. Just wait till you see the cons. Some of the things that I did not like about the movie. For one, the plot is horrendous. It is extremely horrible and feels borderline AI generated. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and say, oh, this is definitely AI generated, because I don't know that. Maybe it's just some really bad writer, but it felt like it was AI generated. The whole plot of Garfield going out of his home and, like, out of his comfort zone is something that has been done before, such as the live action Garfield and the sequel. Um, I feel like they could have done a better job of coming up with something else, or maybe doing something like a better job with that idea, because once again, I've heard people say, well, we can't just make a movie about Garfield being lazy and staying at home, which I do agree. There's got to be some sort of plot and action that happens, but also it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel like a Garfield movie. But yeah, I'll more on that later. Number two for the cons was it was full of groaners. Bad jokes, otherwise known. The jokes sometimes landed, like the beginning of it, like when he's like ordering food and he orders a bunch of food and uses John's credit card. That is very funny. Um, I laughed at the part where John's at the pizzeria and that lady's like, oh, go on Tinder, go on Bumble, and pay for all these subscriptions that and I'm like, wow, that's so real. I love that joke, and I laughed. But yeah, as the movie progresses and you get more of the original characters they came up with for the movie, I definitely noticed my laughter not laughing, because a lot of the jokes were going on too long, overstayed their welcome, or just overall were just didn't make sense or weren't funny. But yeah, just really bad jokes. I'll give some examples later. Number three, the terrible voice acting. The voice acting was just not good at all. And Chris Pratt's was especially hard to listen to. He does not sound anything like Garfield. And I also did some prior research to why he decided not to do really like a voice. And I heard he said he wanted to do his quote unquote own thing and not copy Bill Murray's Garfield, which is fair enough. You don't have to copy your previous actor or voice actor or whatever. But he does his own voice. He doesn't even attempt to sound like Garfield. He does not sound lazy. He does not sound like his voice is just not fit for the character. It feels extremely wrong to hear his voice coming out of Garfield's mouth, Like Garfield looks like Garfield and it feels just extremely off-putting that that's his voice. He also reads them, like, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Pratt fucking recorded this in his closet on his phone. Like, dead ass. It does not sound like he put any effort or any work into any of the lines he did. He did not put any emotion into any of his lines. It just doesn't work. And it doesn't sound good. Some of the other voice actors, like the voice actor for Odie, who also, for some reason, voice acts a lot of dogs, he did an okay job. Because, like, Odie doesn't say any lines, he just barks, but still did an okay job. And, good on you, dude. Good job. I loved you in The Last Wish, Puss in Boots. Anyway, Samuel L. Jackson feels kind of random for Garfield's dad. Like, I don't know really why they cast him as maybe just another recognizable voice to sell the movie out, which I guess is a common theme with casting Chris Pratt as the main character. But anyway, yeah, Samuel L. Jackson did an okay job, but at the same time, his voice for some reason really annoyed me. Maybe it was just the writing and the dialogue of his lines, but he was very annoying and I didn't like him at first, and I still don't like him. He doesn't feel like a good dad, and he doesn't feel like he feels like some 10-year-old wrote this fan fiction in elementary school. It feels like something I would write in elementary school. But yeah, voice acting, not so good. John's voice acting was very good. I like that. Other than that, rest of the voice actors, not very good. Kind of mid. My biggest con with this is that it feels like a Secret Life of Pets movie with Garfield's name slapped on it. Because honestly, I work at a movie theater and I do notice patterns when it comes to certain movies and how they market it to people and how many, the type of demographic that does come to see it, because I sell them tickets and stuff. So, for instance, like if there's like a movie like, I don't know, I can't really think of an example right now, but if there's like some kids movie out, like for example, that one really weird movie, The Legend of Hank, or whatever that mess was. That movie was so weird, and I don't know why we played it at our theater. But a lot of parents took their kids to go see it because they wanted a kids movie and did not look into it. They were like, okay, it's a kids movie. All right, I'll take my kid to it. They did not think about whether or not their kid would like this. And I can tell because most of the time they sound super disinterested. Like they're only doing this for their kid to like be entertained for like an hour and a half. When in all honesty, like I love movies, I love TV shows, but there's got to be a better way to spend time with your kids and to entertain them. Like, come on. I sound like so old right now, and I don't intend to, but just like take your kid outside, take them on a walk. I'm sure they'll they'll learn much more than watching this garbage, quite honestly. But yeah, this just feels like one of those movies that wasn't originally a Garfield movie, but they were like, this movie kind of isn't it, and it's not really grabbing people's attention. So let's just make it a Garfield movie because people like Garfield, right? Right? Like I said, it doesn't feel like a Garfield movie. It feels like they just put Garfield in it to just make it more appealable to some people. Um, One of the other cons that was a big like pet peeve of mine while watching was that the whole movie I was waiting for Nermal because I remember going on Instagram and seeing that they had a picture of the design of Nermal from the movie and I was like, "Oh sick, Nermal's going to be in it. I can't wait to see him," right? And then at the very fucking last second of the movie, literally 1 second, he appeared for 1 second, didn't have any lines. I wish I was exaggerating. It definitely does not. No, it does not do any of the original characters from the comics any favors. It gives more screen time to some random ox that nobody gives a shit about. Like, why are you showing us this random character that we don't care about? Like, maybe that's just me, but I feel like you could have done more with what, I don't know. I feel like none of the writers or directors really gave a shit about Garfield and were just like, okay, let's just add these other characters that don't mean anything to the actual Garfield fans out there. It was extremely disappointing seeing Normal in there for literally 1 second. Um, Another con was Arlene wasn't in it. I love Arlene. She cracks me up in the comics. I loved reading the comics and seeing Arlene and Normal. They always made me laugh, and I love the original specials. They included Normal. Normal was awesome in that. Those episodes and specials always made me laugh, and I never fail to giggle when Garfield is like gonna send Normal to Abu Dhabi, and I don't know. I was just very disappointed with what they did to the original comic strip characters. It's honestly kind of saddening, but yeah, Arlene wasn't in it for some dumb reason. Liz literally had one line, "We're gonna need the big scale." We're gonna need the big scale! That's her one line. And doesn't even get as much screen time as some of the original characters who we don't give a shit about. Like, what? It. This movie fucking sucks, bro. I'm trying to be civil about it, but it is disheartening for what they did to this beautiful, you know, beautiful story and comic strip, they fucking disgraced it, my dudes. They fucking disgraced it.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Overall, this did not feel like a Garfield movie. It had none of the original charm or emotion that the original specials had, or episodes of the cartoons. This was a poorly disguised cash grab with a product placement plastered all over it. The biggest selling point is the fact that it has recognizable names as the voice actors, who don't even try to change their voice or add any emotion into their lines. It feels like one of those movies parents bring their kids to just to shut them up. It breaks my heart that some of the young kids that will see this will see Chris Pratt as their Garfield. Lorenzo Music will always be Garfield. If any parents are seeing this or watching this, do your kids a favor and show them the original cartoon and specials instead of this AI generated bullshit. The director or writer, whoever made this movie, forget the core concept of what Garfield is. It was either AI generated or written by a 10-year-old. There's no in between. I am highly disappointed with this movie, and I don't recommend you bring your kids to it. Go see something else, like If or Inside Out 2. I'm sure those will be somewhat better.